Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I'm getting ready to try to get into a little bit of hunting before the sun goes down. I'm not wearing the orange because I know that just bothers some of you. Why in the world is he wearing that horrible, hideous, bright orange? Oh, it's too much. Well, that's what you wear when you're hunting in the woods. You guys seen what's going on in Iceland? There's been thousands of earthquakes there over the last several days. Really, if you go back the last 30 days, 45 days, there's been something like, I think 20-some thousand, 25,000 earthquakes, a lot. It was like 1,400 in a 24-hour period the other day. And then today there's footage of the town there that it's all happening in, where the ground is actually splitting open. I mean, you can see it. There's drone footage, and where it's just splitting open. Some of it's just a little crack, but some of it looks several feet wide, and there's steam rolling out of it. And they have ordered evacuations in the area. They say that the probability of a volcano is really high. Now, is that something that everyone should worry about? I mean, most certainly, if you're in Iceland, you should be worried about it. Even if you're on the opposite end of the island, it's not a really big place, and I would say a volcano is going to disrupt things everywhere. But what about the rest of us? Well, I am no seismologist or volcanologist or whatever it is that they're called, but I think Iceland has some pretty big seismic and volcanic activity, and my goodness, if it was a really big one, it could certainly throw us into a mini ice age. I mean, it wasn't that volcano, but that's what they believe, for the most part, caused the mini ice age. At least that's one theory. Now, I understand that there's other theories. I read one once that they believe that one theory is that when the white man, when Europeans came to North America, that the Native Americans were much more developed, progressive than history reports them to be. That they had built cities, and they cut trees down and all this kind of stuff. And because of all the disease brought within a couple of centuries, like 60 million of them died, and because of that, it basically knocked them back to being very primitive, and they stopped cutting trees, which caused I don't know, who knows, that it caused the temperatures and everything to rise or to fall. I don't know. It's just some theories that I've read, but this one could be dangerous. There's also been a lot of solar activity going on, and the prediction is that this next solar cycle could be very devastating. And if you've been paying any attention to it, this past year, I mentioned this the other day in a video, and if you want more details, because I'm certainly not the scientific person to listen to on this, you can go to Suspicious Observers, is another YouTube channel. But there have been about every 10 years or so that the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, that they come down south, far enough south that you can see it in places like Arizona and Mexico and Texas or Florida, that far south. But it only happens about once every 10 or 20 years. It's happened like 5 times this year. And the belief is that the magnetic field around the Earth is weakening, that we could be entering into a pole shifting scenario. And there's lots of theories out there of if the Earth's going to tilt, if it's going to be a pole shift, if it's all of the above, micronovas, just all kinds of stuff out there. And while I'm not saying for certain this is all going to happen, if any of it is a little bit true, and we have a weakening magnetic field, which that's what's indicates that we do. Even not a really big solar storm could knock out the grid, could knock out electricity. In fact, there's an article out there today where some scientists are worried that solar activity could knock the grid out, could knock the internet out for months, and that they're trying to develop an early warning system because they believe that this next solar cycle could do it. Now, it's something to think about and something that we should consider on the prepping end of things. How do you prepare for that? If something like that really big happens, and we did have a Carrington event back in, I believe it was 1859, but at that time there wasn't a whole lot of electricity and electronics and all that kind of stuff, so it didn't affect the planet that much. But the theory is that if it happened now, it could very possibly knock us back to the Bronze Age. Now, when I say that, a lot of people say it'll knock us back to the 1800s. I think it would be worse than that, because in the 1800s, they at least knew how to do things. They knew how to build steam engines, and they knew how to build things without electronics. We don't. If you take all the electricity and electronics away, it's like we're Stone Age people for the most part. And I guess the question is anyone out there really prepping for that kind of stuff? Are we thinking about that? Because if it does happen, it's pretty significant. And if you look at some of the theories out there, and I know I'm getting into some hazy areas, so this is theoretical, but if you get into some of the theories out there of what could happen, the level of devastation, that whether it's a pole shift or earth tilting or a massive geomagnetic storm, CME, it starts to kind of sound very apocalyptic, very biblically apocalyptic. And so the question is that how things happen? I don't know. I don't know. I guess the main thing is do we prepare, and how do we prepare for it? Well, I would say, because it's so significant, depending on what it is, and that's going to say a lot. Because I had someone ask the other day, about solar power. Do you use solar systems now and then worry about an EMP or a CME taking them out, coronal mass ejection or a electromagnetic pulse? What happens if that takes it out? Now you don't have anything. Or do you have all that equipment stowed away, buried, or put into some kind of, store in a way that it could be protected from all that, and then use it afterwards? I don't have the exact answer for you. I do the latter, but I don't have the exact answer for you. I would guess, and this is kind of how we look at it for my family, is part of our series of contingency plans, which that's exactly what prepping is. It's developing contingency plans, secondary, tertiary, and so on. Kind of at the end of the road, our final contingency plan is to have the ability to be able to live without all of it. Do we have tools, basic tools, non-electric tools, non-gas demanding tools, tools that we don't have to be recharged or parts have to be manufactured? Basically old-timey stuff. How did the average homestead exist back in the, go back to the mid 1800s up until the very early 1900s, where the average homestead had no modern electric anything, no gas powered anything. Can you survive in that stage? And I think that's a good goal to kind of set. Can you cut wood down? Can you build something? Do you have the tools and the means to build stuff? Do you have the knowledge and the ability to make medicines and to care for wounds and stuff without modern medicines and modern capabilities? Do you have the ability to grow food and to process it and to preserve it, without refrigeration and all that kind of stuff? I know that this sounds overwhelming. It sounds very daunting. It's one thing to prepare for the supply chain to slow down or even stop, or to prepare for the dollar to collapse or something like that, or some, Chinese communist invasion. But to prepare for everything that we've become used to, this vehicle that I'm sitting in, it's 25 years old and it would be worthless. Even if, here's the thing, in a scenario like I'm speaking of, even if you have a vehicle that can handle the either EMP or the CME. How are you going to fuel it? I mean, you can only store so much fuel. At some point, it's going to run out. Other things, chainsaws, yeah, you know, that's EMP proof for the most part, but you got to have fuel and oil for it. You know, eventually you're going to need parts for it. What are you going to do then? And so it makes it very difficult. And I understand that there's also theories about the earth tilting and tidal waves and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's a very deep subject to go into, you know, if it's going to happen and if it does, how to prepare for it. But I think just for the basics is understanding that there is a lot going on besides the stuff on the surface, besides the wars and the economy and the dollar and the banks and the you know, pandemics and you know, supply chains and all that kind of stuff. There does appear to be a massive changing of our planet going through a cycle. And I understand there's differences of beliefs, and then you add in the spiritual belief. You know, what's the Bible say? Some people believe it, some people don't. Not the Bible, but the stuff. You know, it's just a lot. I don't think that it's wrong to study it and to get into it and to try to figure it out. Because like I said, when you start to look at what could happen, it definitely starts to look biblical. It looks very possible. And if you look at the scientific evidence, even from, you know, non-mainstream science, it looks like it could happen and it could be very devastating. So I would recommend to kind of start looking into this kind of stuff. I know that there's some pretty extreme views out there, and at this point, we don't know. You know, according to some, the only way to survive it is building some massive bunker or, you know, moving to a very high mountain or something like that. But humans have survived a lot of pretty crazy stuff before. And so I think that we will survive a lot in the future until the final day comes, until the final coming, the final second coming happens. Then things change. But until then, I think that we're capable of surviving a lot. And so I would strongly recommend, because it works good with anything. You know, if there is a complete economic collapse, if the dollar completely collapses, the banks completely collapse, it could knock us back to the Stone Age for a while. If there was nuclear war, it could knock us back to Stone Age for a while. If there was just a complete collapse of our system overall, knock us back to the Stone Age for a while. So having the ability to do things very simply and learning different techniques to survive, I think it's a very good idea to do. And because we just don't know. And when you see the changing, you know, I've said for years that I kind of believe a lot of this great reset, you know, New World Order, Agenda 2030 stuff is being planned and pushed because they know things are going to happen. They have the scientific knowledge that they've hidden it, kept it out of our eyesight as much as possible, and they know that the Earth is going through some massive, massive changes. And so they're trying to create a system so that when it does, they retain power. That's just a theory that I've had. Anyways, work on your contingency plans, folks. And as best as you can, try to work in a contingency plan for if all else fails. You know, if the whole system, you know, having all of this electronic and modern technology as part of your backups and as part of your preps, if that's the only thing you have, that can certainly weaken your preparations. So if nothing else, have, you know, extra tools and saws and certain things put aside so that you can do things more primitively. And I'm not talking caveman primitively, things like your great-grandparents would have done, that kind of primitively, because we can at least do that. We know they survived, and we can get at least to that point if we try hard enough. So, folks, be working on this, thinking about it. Let me know what you think in the comments and what maybe you're doing. I mean, don't give away all your secrets, but what you may be doing to do this and to get prepared. Folks, get your houses in order. and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.